Hi there. I just installed Zorin 15 Lite, which is a XFCE desktop environment. Of course, it's tweaked by Zorin in the way that they wanted to configure it. And I'm going to basically just walk you through things to do once you install Zorin, or things you might want to do. It really depends on what your needs are, but a lot of times people don't know what their needs are. So this is my attempt at showing you what I would do. And I'll just begin with, well, let's just start with the wallpaper. So that's a simple place to start. Right click on your desktop, excuse me. Go into desktop settings, left click. It'll populate with the wallpaper that is that comes with this distro, and I'm going to go with a darker theme, so I'm going to click on that. And you'll notice that the folder where these wallpapers are located here. If you back up, you can see further where they may be located, and this is just kind of give you an overview. With the home, there's your home folder, and then the various partitions that I mentioned that are Debian, and then the file system, which is Zorin. So once you're here, then you can also make some other changes. If you go into there's the second tab where there's some changes. And then there's the third tab, which is where I'm going to make some changes. And excuse me again, I'm sorry. I just ate and I've got, I don't know, phlegm in my system here. Anyway, so here, use the custom font size might be preferable. You may want to do single click to activate items, which I do. I just find it a lot quicker. And then by default, it's just showing you removable devices. So if you plug in a USB drive, or in this instance, the partitions, it's showing here that are Debian, and then the SSD that I have installed as well. So just the changes there is what I made for now. I'm going to close this out. There's just so many changes you can do, but I'll try to be methodical here. Let's even use my things to do as a guide. So now that I changed that single click, I don't have to double click to initiate the startup of the application of whatever app you're using. So, and then this is a notepad, or I should say it's actually a text editor, and that would be under accessories. And let's see they just call it text editor, but it's most likely, let's see what kind of text editor it is. If you go into the settings here, go into about, so it's Get is the text editor that comes with Zorin. And then just some immediate changes you can do is go into the little setting here, just left click with your mouse, go into preferences, and the things that matter most for using a text editor is it's already by default the text wrapping is engaged. A few of these items are already engaged. The only changes I do is this was initially checked, and when it is, see how tiny the text is. So I just uncheck it, and then I just leave the default font that's here, and then it renders it in size 12. And then if you want, you can change the coloring of it. And since this is a text editor, I'm going to have a background of cobalt in the background. So I'm going to click it that way. So I'm just customizing this text editor. And for now, we'll just leave that like that. And you may not like white text on dark. Everything's a matter of preference. But for now, I'm going to use this showing you some changes you can make if you wish. Okay, and then I'm going to put this, let's see if they've got, yeah, they do have the setting engaged. If you slide your text editor to any corner, it's called window snapping, and it's already engaged. So it'll take part of your display, which is handy, and it's a question of knowing what really the benefits. But once you tinker with this or play with Linux, you'll start to see some of the advantages of some of these tweaks or applications that are enabled or that you can install as well. So things to do. Do all your updates first and reboot. Enable your firewall. So if you go into the start menu, you could just type in firewall, and you can see it right there on the second column. So I used the arrow key and then hit enter. And then it wants you to log in because you're going to make a change. So you log in with your password. And this is the first time me using this at this point. And so all I want to do is enable it, and it's pretty simple. You just put your mouse cursor or arrow right here, and then it's going to change to a colored. It went from black and white into color. Notice now it's alive, and that's all you have to do to enable the firewall. So then click File, Quit. And there's a little delay. You may want to wait just a little bit before you hit Quit. And so that's enabled. So when you reboot, that firewall will always come up, and that's just a software firewall, but it's one of the additional safeguards that you may want in any operating system. Your router, I believe, also has a firewall. So you just want to create various safeguards for yourself. Now, I also adjusted the font size of the desktop, so you'll notice the clock is a little larger, and I believe some of these icons may be larger, and the menu itself, the text is larger. And I'll show you how to do that. So you go into settings. Actually, no, let's see. Now we'll go into settings there. Go into appearance. And then I went into the third column, fonts. And this is where I believe I made some of the changes. Maybe not, because now this doesn't look as familiar. But here this is one way to make some changes. This is for applications, size 12. The window title, which would be here, is set at 10. I'm going to change that. I think I'm going to go with 12 also. And if it's too big, we'll find out. You may need to reboot to render the change for that. But basically, I'm wanting all the fonts to be 12. So that's one way to make changes of your fonts. I think there is another way. I'm just, at the moment, can't think of what that is. We'll move on to, okay, I changed the wallpaper. If you want to single click the mouse, you would go into, let's go back into settings. And I believe, let's see, was it here? Window manager. Let's try it again. Whoop, theme. No. I'm forgetting how to do that. Hold just a second. We're going to figure this out. We'll come back to it. Changing the file manager settings. Now that is, in a way, it's critical. It depends on what your needs are, but here's your file manager. When you install it, you'll have it actually right available to you, and it's what they call the Thunar file manager. If you click on it, then you go into edit, go to preferences, and here's where you can make some changes that would be significant. You might leave these as default. Side pane, leave that as default. Behavior, this is where you get the single click, and I think that's for the mouse. No, well, it's for the file manager, but I believe it is essentially for the mouse too. So click that if you want to do single click. There's various single clicks for different functions of the computer, so I just made two changes if you recall the first one. I'll leave that all the way it is, and we'll close that out. Let's move on to now I noticed when I clicked on the software manager, which we'll do here now, click software, and it'll come up and it'll load the graphical or the images. There might be a delay for the first time. So there are applications that when I did a search, if you click here and you put in a search, certain items didn't come up, and there may be a reason or a setting that needs to be enabled to get those additional apps. But what I did was, I think it's handy to have an additional way to install applications. And so what I did was install a Synaptic package manager. And actually I shouldn't have closed it out, so we'll just go back in there and I'll show you again. So once you're in here, you click the search bar, and then I typed in Synaptic, S-Y, and it has to be, you might have to be exact because it won't come up if you misspell it. So be careful with your spelling. So as soon as I typed in Synaptic, here's the package manager. Now you'll notice here it shows that it's installed because I had already installed it prior to the video. So with this installed now, which is quite handy, I can go in here and then I can type Synaptic, S-Y-N-A, and it starts to come up right there. Then you can just hit enter once you've got it. You need to put in your password again. And so this has to load. And sometimes you might even have to reload it. And you can also click Mark All Upgrades. That's another way to make sure that you have all the updates, or one way to show how to do updates. But now what I'm trying to show you at this point is I'm searching for something that wasn't in the software app. And so I just click search, and I was looking for a mouse cursor called Breeze Cursor. And that's what I want right here, Breeze Cursor theme. I was thinking of installing this instead of the, it does have various other cursor themes, but I prefer this one. So I'm going to install it. I'm going to hit apply. And then click apply here. And then I'm also going to engage this automatically close after the changes have been successfully installed, because that's kind of handy. And now you can see it's actually installed. So now what I'm going to do is go back into the start menu, go to settings, and I believe, let's see if I can find it. Well, I can probably just do type here, type mouse, and then notice it says mouse and touchpad, hit enter, and go to theme, and now you can see that I have the breeze, snow, and breeze. Basically, one is white, one's dark. So Zorin comes with Adwaita or Wada, I don't know how you pronounce it. Comes with handhelds, red glass and white glass, but now I added in snow, breeze I should say, and let's go with the dark one for now. So click dark, and you can already see the cursor's changed there, and you can also change this size to your liking if you wish. You may have to reboot to render some changes, but it looks like it already made a change for me, and this is the cursor that I want. So so that's been changed. Something else that came up when I just installed this, I had an issue with the video or the media player, which if you go in the start menu, go to multimedia, click, and you'll see Parole Media Player, which is the default player, and it wouldn't, the video wasn't rendered properly, and so I'll just show you what I did. So when you bring up the media player, let me see if I can shrink this down, because you probably won't come up full screen. I want you to kind of see it as you would normally see it when you click on it for the first time. So once you've enabled Parole, you would go into your tools, then you go to preferences. And if you have any issues with your video, basically you need to follow what I just said. Then you want to go into display, and I believe the default setting was automatic, and I had to change it to X Window System. And notice there's two X Window Systems here. It would be the X11 / blah, blah, blah. So that's the one you'd want to engage if you're having issues with video. Otherwise, leave it as automatic. So I'm just going to close out here because I don't want to make any changes. But that's what I had to do to get the video to work properly for me with this particular player. And if you don't like this player or you want an additional media player, I would recommend MPV, and that would be in Synaptic. So if you or VLC, that's another media player you can use. And these are how would you put it? They play all music and video files. You can also separate your media players with, if you want just a music player separately, there's several of those, and you'll find them in your software settings. And I guess I could show you that just briefly. So click on software. Then you want to, I'll maximize it. Go into your search. And actually, you can there might even be categories here. Yeah, so you have categories here. Here's audio and video. So if you click on it, it's going to take a second to load the images for the players. And so here you have, this one's a music player. This is a multiplayer, basically audio, video, all your different, and here's MPV. Now, you can install just the raw part of MPV, which is just the player. If you need more of a graphical interface, then you would want the GNOME MPV. I just used this player, but you may not know how to use it very well. And I don't know if you call it its raw form, but it's more basic just by itself. This gives the easier graphical interface so you can utilize some of the settings in this player. But it plays very well. Matter of fact, I think it plays better than VLC. And that's why that's my first choice. And that might be my second choice. Now, if you want music and a simple player, Audacity is always a safe bet. And not to be confused with, Audacious is the player for music. Audacity would be for manipulating audio files. And then, of course, I'm using Simple Screen Recorder for this recording. So these are just various audio apps for various things you might want to do in Linux. So I'll let you find more about that on your own. Let's see, I'm going to close that out. Where else do I want to go? I'm going to change the theme. Let's see if you can even type in theme. Will it come up as theme? It doesn't come up that way, but you can just go into settings, go to appearance, and it's loading for the first time. I'm going to start going in, I'm going to make a change to a dark theme. So we're going to use Zorin Blue Dark. That may be too dark. Let's try Edwada. I might prefer that. Let me look again. No, I don't like that. So I would go with Edwada if I was going with a dark, or play with this. It's always just a question of what you want. Icons. Now that we're on a dark theme, we're going to have to change that light to dark. And then you'll notice that these icons will come up with this light color over the dark panel. And then fonts, here's where I forgot earlier. These are the areas where I changed the default fonts. And if you don't like the size of the default, which I believe is 10, then you just adjust them here. I leave everything the same other than just changing the size. If you want to have event sounds, you can engage this. I don't need event sounds. I basically just leave the that basically is all default. Let's go back into settings. You can play with your screensaver. I guess let's just go in there, see what we got. So it's set to blank screen, and we'll leave it that way for now. lock screen. These are default settings. So I maximized them. Apparently they're all turned on. If you don't like it locking the screen so quickly, you can delay it, lock the screen after the screen is active. So you can change the timing of the locking of the screen here. Let me come out. Probably should go from left to right. Appearance, desktop. Let me click on this again. Okay, we were already there, so let's come out. Let's click on language support just to see. So it's loading language support. Some translations or writing aids available for your chosen language are not installed. Do you want to install them now? This could be very handy. Well, let's see. What is it? Does it tell the details? Yeah, so this tells you what it would install. So this would be handy for a lot of things. So if you wanted your help files for GIMP, which is a image to edit images, what else? Let's hold out for now. I don't want to install that. Let's close that for now. Notifications, primary display, default theme. I probably can show you. They probably have a preview here. They do. So, so the preview. Here's a preview. That's what when you get a notification, it can look like that. You can customize this. So let's try. Default. So you can have something really ugly like that if that's something you like. That we showed you the default. Bright, which would stand out, especially in a black. Retro, which is yellow, or I think that's yellow, or smoke. I'm going to put smoke for now because I want it to somewhat stand out so that you can you want to see your notification, whatever works for you. And then how long do you want it to show? So I'm going to change it down to 5 seconds instead of 10. And then you're done. So I just changed it to smoke, changed the timing of it to 5, hit close. And then I lost my setting now where I was, so we'll go back in there. Okay, so that's notifications. There's your panels. Now this is where you can make some noticeable changes also. It's a question of how you want your panel to appear. Well, we'll leave this for now because all of this takes time. But this is where you can tweak your panel for different reasons. Let's go back to settings, preferred applications. Depending on what browser you want to use, you can change the default browser here. So if I install other browsers, you just make a change here. If you're using a mail reader, then of course you'd have Thunderbird or other types of mail readers. Utilities, Thinner is your file manager, and this is your terminal type that is used. Going back to settings, let's follow through here. You've got, let me see, window manager. Basically, we were in here, and I just showed you the few changes I did. We'll leave that alone for now. Window manager tweaks. You have cycling, focus, accessibility. Read about this, Google this information to see if these are things that, if you're going to make changes, you might want to know what you're doing. Otherwise, just leave them where they are. One of the tabs that I would change is placement. If you want the image or your apps to always open in the center, I believe all you have to do is just put this all the way to large. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th tab, which is placement, change the slider to large, and it'll always open up in the center of the screen. Now the last tab is compositor. Now this is what these are. Oh, tweaks to the window manager, basically. So if you don't want to use the tweaks, you can disable it here, right, where it says enable display. And if you want to create some transparency, you can make some adjustments here. So for now, I'm going to change. Let's do this. I usually, if I make some changes, it would be these ones in the center, I believe. And we'll go right about there. And I keep these all even the same, if that makes sense. Hit close, and I'll give you an example. So if you open it up, any app, let's bring that down, and you go to, as you move it, see how it becomes a little transparent. And let's check something out here. Let's close that out, open this back up. Notice how it's back in the center now. Now it won't, when you open up any app, it won't, but the problem, I don't know if I want to call it problem, but any other app you open, and they will just open on top of each other. And you may not like that, but it's still handy in some ways for me. Let's just see, make sure, yeah, so see this image viewer open on top of the file manager. But the one that's active will be opaque, and the inactive will be transparent. And that's the reason for changing the transparency. So see, now I clicked on that, that becomes active. Click on that, that becomes active. So I'm just showing you some of the reasons for some of these little settings that I'm showing you. What else? So I went to a dark theme. There's Zorin does have its own. I think, let me see, is it just Zorin Appearance? Yeah, so Zorin Appearance. If you click on, I think I already clicked on it. Theme. So I believe the accent color is the first one here. You can change your accent colors. You can change the background so that during the day they'll be light, and in the evening it'll go dark on its own. And that may be a preference. Let's see something here. Let's try this. So if I clicked it, it's probably going to go light. Yeah. And so just what I said to you. So at this time of the day, it's daylight, so it's white. But as it goes to evening, the whole panel will be dark, which is easier on your eyes. And this might be a nice compromise to, instead of having it dark all the time. Now let's see, what is this? Okay, so this, they had wanted dark icons. I don't know if Zorin 95 is the same icon as what we're seeing. I guess I could try it. I'm going to leave it. I don't want to touch it right now because I just want to leave it the way it is. So this may be a different layout too. If you click on this layout versus this layout, I'll let you play with that on your own if you want. But nothing's going to break. It's just be aware that if you make a change, you might want to do it incrementally so that you know what you've actually done or did. And I'm going to go back to dark because that's just the way I want it. But now, see, this is the Zorin dark, so I've got to go. I'm going to go. This is using their own theme, but you can go in and use your appearance tab here. It's got to load. There's a bit of a delay. Go back in here, and we're going to go back to Edwada dark, which seemed to be the thing that was preference for me. I want to make sure that we're using the same theme here. Yep. Size of the fonts. Yep. And then there is another setting here. Let's go back in there. There was under Window Manager. Notice how you can minimize, open, close, or close it. These settings in the theme will change the way this looks. How you close or minimize. You can go with the Zorin blue. You can also go, let's see what Zorin 95 was like. It's not showing a change there. Let's go to something else. Let's do the default would be your, there's your default there for Zorin. If you want that, let's contrast it to what the dark one was. Okay, so this spreads it out a little bit better. You can also use Deloa, or I don't know how you pronounce it, which will highlight this in color. And actually, let me minimize it. It'll also give you this blue outline. So you may even like this compared to the default that it comes with, which was the dark. So see, it's just dark all the way around. Maybe for now I'm going to go with the however you pronounce it, Deloa. We'll leave it like that for now, and then close that out. So these are just settings you can change. Oh, and then the clock. So you can have the clock, just leave it like that. Now it's also in I guess you call it military time. What I'm going to do though is you just right click on it, go to properties, and we're going to go to an LCD clock. And then we're going to change it 24 hours so that it's 12 hour. We're going to change the flash separators so it'll just blink the flash. And I'm going to leave it like that because I think that looks better. And then you might say, well, where's the date? Well, you can either hover your mouse over the clock or you can click on the date. To me, this looks better than having the other clock. So everything's a matter of preference. This is your power. Let's see, Power Manager settings. So here's where you may want to make some changes. Just read what these changes are, and make some changes if you need to. Right now it'll go into suspend, it looks like. And anyway, this is your Power Manager settings right there, handy. Here's your volume. If you click on it, it's linked to your Parole, and then this is linked to my microphone, and this is a DAC, a separate audio DAC for enhancing the audio, and that is the name of the company. So, and this is your notifications. This is Bluetooth. I don't have Bluetooth on this desktop. I think that's it for now. Basically, just wanted to help you do some basic setting changes to Zorin when you install it. And, it's always a matter of preference, but these are just basic settings. And would there be anything else I'd want to tell you at this point? When you do, when you may have to... if you separate your media player, your music player from your video player, so say you do install Audacious or some other music player, you may have to separate the file format so that one player will see the music as opposed to video, so that the video goes strictly to the video player and the music goes strictly to the music player. But if you have an all-in-one player, that won't matter at all. So Parole is an all-in-one player, VLC is an all-in-one player, and so on. So just be aware there are differences of different types of players. And I think that's all I'm going to do for now. And I hope that this helps most of you. And enjoy Zorin, because this actually is... I'm impressed with this version. I think they did a very good job. There might be a few settings that don't quite work, but overall this looks like it's been implemented very well. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.